Oh. Looks like folks are still logging on, so we'll start in a few seconds. Okay, well, I will go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone. We're so glad you could join us today, and we hope this presentation by members of our annual conference committee will be helpful to you as you consider submitting a proposal for our 2024 NAFSA Annual Conference. I'm Michelle Kudrin. I'm the Senior Director for the conference program at NAFSA, and I just want to go over a few reminders before we get started. Just a reminder that this presentation will be recorded and you will have access to the recording following this live webinar. All attendees are muted and off camera. So if you have a question, please put that in the Q&A box that you can see on your taskbar. Only the presenters will see that question. We also welcome you to engage with each other in the chat function. You can also ask questions in the chat function. We do have another member of our annual conference committee, Sarah Thurston, in the chat, and she'll be engaging with you and helping to answer questions there. Now, to kick off today's webinar is Jenny Bowen, who is our chair of the 2024 annual conference committee. Now I'll turn it over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jenny Bowen, Director of International Student Advising at Indiana University Bloomington's Office of International Services. And as Michelle said, I'm the chair of the annual conference committee. We are so excited to have you here today, and we've got a lot of information we want to share with you, and then get some interaction from you a little bit later with some questions about what you want to present on, maybe what you are thinking about proposing for our 2024 annual conference. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues who are going to introduce themselves. So CK and Anna.
Hey, welcome everyone. I've already noticed from the participant list that I recognize a few of the names, people that I know well. Thank you for joining us. My name is CK Kwai. Currently, I direct the Center for International Services, International Services and Programs at Cleveland State University. And my role at NAFSA is, I guess you can read it. Back to Anna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Hayes. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Global Health and Safety at Duke University. And on the annual conference committee, I am the poster chair. And I look forward to chatting with you for this next hour.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. The whole entire annual conference committee is really excited about the 2024 conference, which is going to be in New Orleans, Louisiana. We just can't wait. We're really looking forward to your questions and all the thoughts that you want to be sharing in the chat. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to first take a look at the objectives for today's session. What we're hoping to cover is a little bit about the annual conference so that you have kind of an overview of what it's all about and what things you might want to be thinking about as you finalize your thoughts on the outstanding proposals that you're about to submit. We want to talk a little bit about the reviewing the submission and the proposal process. So what happens after you submit it, and what is everybody looking at? And perhaps some of you also signed up to be reviewers, so you'll get to see that on the other side as well. We're going to spend a little time looking at some tips that we have, some suggestions about creating the most strong proposal that you can. And of course, we want to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. So let's go ahead and get started with a small activity. If you have a piece of paper and a pen handy or something, a computer screen on the side that you can look at, take a moment to jot down the type of session that you really enjoy at a conference and why you enjoy it. So finish this sentence. I really enjoy conference sessions that, and we'll give you just a minute or two. The overall point of the exercise is you should always be thinking about your audience. What are they going to get out of it? So as an audience member yourself, what was it about a session or a workshop or a poster that really stood out for you? Take just a moment. Great. And I'm seeing that you're already reading my mind. You're right there, putting some ideas in the chat that you have about what it is that you really get out of a good conference session. And these are the things that you want to be thinking about as you start to develop your own proposals. And you can remember why this is important, what speaks to you about a really great conference session that you were involved in. So if you didn't jot this down, or you're not sort of taking notes on what you're seeing on the side, let that sort of currently be your inspiration as we continue through the rest of this presentation. Let's take a look at the conference theme. So our conference theme is resilience, renewal, community. The whole purpose of the conference is really to bring together the global international education community. We want to reflect and celebrate, inspire and create. And that's what I'm seeing in the chat already, just the ideas that you're putting together. So together, we then recognize and learn from the strength and the expertise of our whole community. We can renew our whole missions, right? Chart the course for the future, get a good head start on the next year ahead. Every year, the annual conference committee uses a set of guiding principles, if you will, sort of standard things that always apply to the work that we do. And they're part of the tools that we use to develop the conference program. And this is all on the Call for Proposals website, and we'll give you some resources and links here in a little bit. But the guiding principles that we're looking at are to meet challenges that we can identify by sharing lessons that we've learned from diverse perspectives and innovative approaches. We want to also explore trends in professional development and career advancement and advocate for everybody's well-being. We also want to look at community building, intentional community building and networking experiences. So that's what you're seeing in some of the conference activities every year automatically, right? We want to make sure that the conference is accessible to all. We want to highlight global thought leadership and multi-generational voices and perspectives. And we want to underscore the global imperative for social justice and access. And we want to think about the importance of inclusive internationalization. It's got a long-term impact at all of our institutions and our local and our global communities. And these are the sorts of things that we're automatically thinking about every year as we plan the conference. But then we want to take a look at what else might be needing to be looked at every conference. And so in the 2024 conference, we've got some specific content priorities that we want to focus on. And you'll see this laid out on the proposals website. Every year, we work together as a committee to pick areas that we want to highlight that we think will be important in the coming year ahead. The full list can be found on the website. You can see right there a whole layout of what they all are, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of these. You see we've got best practices in a couple of different areas, professional growth, resilience and wellness, so important right now, equity, diversity and inclusion, global and multi-generational voices. We're trying to cover a wide variety of things. There's a lot going on in the world that we want to be mindful of and how it impacts the work that we do and how we can impact the work we do with each other by putting in a session on one of these types of topics. So as you think about your proposal topic, or if you're still not quite sure what you want to propose, thinking about these content priorities and thinking about the guiding principles, all of those are great places to start. And we want you to be bold and creative and inclusive. So make a compelling pitch for the content that you want to see. With that, let me turn it over to CK Kwai and let him take it from there.
Well, hello everyone again. This is going to be an important part because I'm going to walk you through the specific information you should be aware of when submitting your proposal. And I think it just clocked 159 participants. So I'm expecting everyone to be submitting a proposal. So this is going to be important. So when you are submitting a session or workshop proposal, and I will talk a little bit about the differences later on. You will be asked to consider your target audience. So for sessions and workshops, you have to pick which audience or your submission applies to. So for example, you will see on the left-hand side, there are 5 knowledge communities, or we just call them KC sometimes. So these are education abroad, international education leadership, international enrollment management, international student and scholar services, teaching, learning, and scholarship. Now, if you are not very familiar with the 5 knowledge community, you should check out, you can read about them in details at the NAFSA website, okay? That is nafsa.org. And then if, for example, if you're not sure, or you have a proposal that you think is actually does not fit into just one of them, we have the area called the shared interest. So we consider proposal as shared interest when they can relate to 3 or more KCs. It is what we like to call pan-NAFSA, right? So for example, you will see on the right-hand side of the infographic that lists 3 different panelists across different areas of an institution, which leads to kind of really an effective and a shared interest proposal, right? So, so it could be, I mean, all kinds of combination among the 5 different knowledge community. Then the next thing I want to talk about is going to be the submission type, as I mentioned earlier, right? So there is a session, there are also workshop, but within session, there are actually 2 different kinds. So I will kind of go into them a little detail as we kind of, as in the next few slides here. But the quick thing to kind of really pay attention is for session, we have the 50-minute session and the 25-minute session. And I will definitely talk about them in a little more detail in terms of with the next slide. So if you are proposing a session, we ask that you propose either a 25 or a 50-minute length session. As you are crafting your proposal, take care, in terms of choosing the length and the setup that is appropriate to your topic. 50-minute sessions are the average length and are kind of the most popular and mostly accepted format. And usually it's only, and the maximum is up to 4 presenters, including the chair or a moderator. The 25-minute sessions are shorter sessions, and they are usually, this is kind of a unique opportunity to kind of propose a topic that will take less than the usual 15 minutes, right? So this kind of session should focus on a single concept in a condensed amount of time. We recommend 1 presenter. For example, it can be kind of a career-focused content, could work very well, right? Or, other hot topics that can be covered in a 25-minute span. They are highly, highly focused, and to the point. So those are for the 25 minutes sessions. So next, if you feel that your topic merits greater length and more in-depth exploration, consider submitting a workshop. So the NAFSA current topic workshop, or sometimes you will just hear us refer to it as CTW. So these are kind of workshops that are topic and skills very important to international educators today, including recent changes, new approaches, and timely content. CTWs provide valuable perspective and insights into critical trends advancing the field of international education. A workshop is an immersive experience where both the trainers and participants have a role. Some adjectives for workshop are hands-on training, collaborative problem solving. Attendees are active participants, unlike in a session where the attendee expect to learn from the presenters and can either be active or passive. Workshop proposal can, usually is, for participants to be an active, to have an active role, right? And then workshop proposal can be either a 2-hour or a 4-hour long workshop or session. And you'll see that this infographic goes in depth into the difference between a session versus a workshop. as a potential workshop trainer, be thinking about your delivery method, how you're going to use your time, and exactly what the participants will come away with. Remember that workshops are a collaborative experience. So ensure that you hone your proposal so that the reviewer can see how you are spending this extra time. Now, I'll turn it over to Anna, our poster chair, and she will talk about the poster fair at the conference.
Thanks, CK. So you may be thinking to yourself, what is a poster? Posters are visual presentations of model practices and programs. During one of the 11 poster fairs, poster presenters and attendees have the unique opportunity to have one-on-one discussions with the presenters about topics presented on their visual posters. Posters allow for presenters to network with the visitors of the poster fair and with other poster presenters. The deadline for submitting a poster proposal is later than the session and workshop proposals, so you have more time. It's on December 6th. Now that we've gone through the different types of submissions, we'll talk more about the structure of your submissions and what you need to have ready to go before you log in and start a submission. CK, back to you.
Thank you, Anna. So this is going to be, I guess, another important part. It's the submission requirements. So please pay attention and don't miss out any of the points here, because your submission will be evaluated based on the requirements, right? So, let's go over the key submission requirements. The submission process will take you a little while, so don't wait. If you have not started, you should start right away. Of course, your proposal needs a title and abstract. You will also be asked to list your learning objectives, which describe what attendees will learn. So make sure you have thought this out thoroughly. I've seen a number of really good proposals not make it because even though the abstract was engaging, the section where the presenters outline the learning outcomes was incomplete or just weren't there. A good learning objective has an action verb, and you can think about, a learning objective as starting with the sentence, after the session, attendees will be able to ... As we mentioned earlier, you have to also pick your audience, which for session and workshop, is going to be, within which knowledge community, all share interests. So you need to kind of identify that part. Also, all presenters' biographical information must be included. Don't wait till the end, because each presenter is required to log in and verify their profile. So this can sometimes take time, especially if you have presenters from different parts of the world. Also, you will also be asked to briefly describe the overall design and delivery method of your session, which should express how the time will be used, how the audience will be engaged, if applicable, and any creative presentation approaches that you plan to incorporate. We will also ask submitters to provide a statement on the value of and the impact of the knowledge gained in the session when attendees return to their office or workspace. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the review and selection process. You may be wondering, what the review process is, for session and workshop. Your proposal, are peer review. Reviews, the review team, are based on the NAFSA knowledge community. So as I mentioned earlier, right, whether it's education abroad, international student or scholar services, so those kind of knowledge community, and of course the shared interests. There are also at least 4 reviewers for each proposal, and the pool of reviewers is really impressive. We have over 600 reviewers sign up. The reviewers use a review rubric to evaluate proposal, and you can download this from the NAFSA website. The review scores are shared with the Annual Conference Committee, which is charged with the final selection based on the reviewer scores. The ACC, or the Annual Conference Committee, goals and the content priority for the NAFSA strategic priorities. Each proposal will be rated on a scale of 1 to 5. So, for example, here are some of the things, right? We will be reviewing how well do the title, abstract, and learning objectives align with each other. How likely is it that the format and delivery will allow participants to achieve the stated learning objective? Are the presenters knowledgeable in the topic area? And given the limited number of slots available for session and high volume of proposals received, how likely would you be attending or recommend someone to this particular session? Anna?
Yeah, for posters, the poster fair organizers, annual conference committee members, and additional select reviewers will also peer review the poster submissions in the winter, with final selections being made by the annual conference committee and the poster fair organizers. Each poster proposal will be rated on a scale of 1 to 5 for the appropriateness of the topic for a poster format, importance of the topic to the audience, and meeting the NAFSA non-commercial policy. And on a side note, if you're interested in being a poster fair organizer, we'll begin recruiting in a few weeks. I'll drop the link to more information on that in the chat. You can also contact me if you have questions.
So you've heard about what's possible to submit and how to do it. And then we wanted to think about how, so to make a little bit of a place-specific reference, we were thinking about what kind of seasoning can we sprinkle into our gumbo, if that's your thing. Thinking about how can you get your proposal there? What's gonna make it really sing? And we wanted to come up with some tips for you that we hope will be helpful. A great proposal captures the reviewer's imagination, gets them excited and enthusiastic about the topic, be it a session with a lot of interactivity or a session that is slightly less interactive, but still packed full of cool and interesting information. Reviewers are going to be looking for things that they believe will engage the audience, can bring in a new perspective on an old topic, or maybe create a new way of thinking. And we're also looking for fresh ideas and fresh faces. So as we go through the tips, we'll be sharing some peer reviewer feedback that have come in from previous proposal reviews and maybe help you have a sense of what works and maybe what doesn't work as you prepare to write your proposals. So let's take a look at the first tip. Number 1, be sure to read the call for proposals and link your topic to the NAFSA audience. We welcome proposals on many different topics, like we talked about earlier, related to the field of international education. Be authentic. Consider making a connection between yourself, your topic, the conference theme. As you start to finalize what you're no doubt thinking in your head right now, be thinking about what draws you to the topic. If there are many proposals on this particular topic, what are you bringing that sets your particular proposal apart? What makes your proposal unique? What about you makes you the right person to present? Not that you should doubt yourself, but rather you want to make that connection for the reviewer so that they know why you have such a connection to this topic and how that's going to resonate with your audience. So be thinking about your audience, just like we talked about at the very beginning with the exercise of what do you want to get out of a good conference session. Tip number 2. We're looking for topics that are timely and fresh and solution oriented. There's a lot of conversations we can have around enhancing our work, the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis in the field, how to work through some of the challenges that we're facing. So think out of the box, maybe something you might not have seen on the program before, but would be really useful for a conference attendee. Creativity is welcome. Cutting edge would be amazing. I'm sure there's some other words I could use, out of the box, cutting edge, fill in the blank in a similar vein. All right. Tip number 3. Consider the work or job related information that your audience needs. What will help them do their jobs better? Within your learning objectives, make sure you show how the information that you're going to convey in your session will help the attendees find solutions, further their professional development, get the job done. So focus on what they're going to get coming out of it and make that clear in your learning objectives. All right, let me pass it over to CK.
Great. Tip number 4. Speakers should be knowledgeable on the subject and represent a diversity of voices. The Annual Conference Committee welcome proposals that come from a diversity within the field, right? Depending on the topic, and if you are proposing a panel including a diverse, make sure that you include a diversity of voices. Because that will help that your panel broadly cover the spectrum of that particular topic. Diversity also means the type of institution, the different size, the different whether it's for-profit or is actually a third-party provider, so that is included in the diversity. And please know, however, that proposal with only a single presenter are also allowable, and that is usually for the 25-minute session. But in a nutshell, I mean, the important thing is to be sure that the speakers are knowledgeable, and that you have diversity, whether it is just from perspective or from different institution. And an example, from an actual peer reviewer comment is that the collaborative approach and breadth of experience among the panelists will provide a thorough overview of current resources. So that so for example, this was likely a proposal that was accepted. So now tip number 5, and this is the tip is that it's not all about the abstract, and it's true, right? The abstract is very, very important, but beyond the abstract, it also needs to make sure that your abstract and the learning objectives are aligned, right? Because it is not just how well you can write an abstract. Everything has to kind of line up, and the learning objectives and the way you deliver it has to kind of also reflect the learning objective, right? So another example from a peer reviewer is that session abstract is not aligned with the learning objectives. The learning outcomes are unclear. So this will be an example of one proposal that probably was not accepted. So moving on, tip number 6. Know your audience. I think we have said this a number of times now. I think Jenny has said it. I've said it numerous times. It is very, very important to know your audience. So think about who will benefit from your presentation and also their career level. So know your audience also means, knowing, whether this is an advanced topic or this is an entry-level topic. So all that, it's included in knowing your audience, right? Or knowing who you're targeting. And then now, of course, we welcome proposals that are for advanced, middle career, and also for new professionals. At the NAFSA Annual Conference, we have all this level, we have all kinds of level, right, of professionals, right? So clearly state this in your proposal so that the committee will know which audience your session is geared for. So questions to ask yourself, and articulate in your proposal is who are you presenting for or to, right? Know your NAFSA knowledge community. Whether is this an advanced content or is this an entry-level content? And then, of course, what are the international education, how the international professional folks will actually benefit from your topic. So I'm going to pass the next tip on to Anna.
So tip number 7, highlight ways you plan to engage your audience. This is especially true for 50-minute sessions and workshops. For a 50-minute session isn't a lot of time, but it's still really important to have some level of interaction. That could be a quick poll of the audience using a show of hands or a polling site such as Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere. Or you could also just have your audience simply turn and talk to their neighbor for a minute or two. This encourages people to learn from others in the audience and make new connections. I mean, we saw from the chat earlier, people want this from their proposals. With only 50 minutes, people will want substantive information though, so you need to allow for that. Good sessions should think about how the audience learns. So like CK just said, know your audience, then think about how they learn and how they will need to learn best given the topic. For example, if you're presenting on some complex regulatory issue, perhaps more presentation time is needed in order to convey the information needed by attendees. If you are presenting on new ideas surrounding International Education Week programming, maybe some time for audience sharing would work well. For a workshop, you should include a much more detailed plan that includes substantive audience engagement, such as small group exercises, dialogues, and sharing and the like. And peer review feedback here is the session seems too general. There's no mention of audience engagement or participation. The presentation strategy is very dated. All right, tip number 8, make a connection between your topic and the conference theme if appropriate. If your topic is strongly aligned with the theme, weave that through the submission, find that balance. Connecting your session to the theme could also demonstrate to your reviewers and the committee that you read the CFP. However, pro tip, the reviewers will know if you just write a title as loosely associated with the theme in hopes of being accepted. Please know that it isn't necessary and may not be appropriate to always connect your topic back to the theme, but where possible, we encourage you to do that. You can see an example of peer review feedback here that this looks like an excellent and very timely session timed perfectly with the theme for NAFSA this year. Tip number 9 is plan ahead and don't wait for the deadline. Give yourself and your panelists ample time to compile all necessary elements of your submission and to log in and complete the tasks. Remember, one of the evaluation criteria for the proposals is around the presenters. Be sure all presenters who are a part of the session are listed and are clear and have submitted their part of the proposal. Peer review feedback here is presenters mentioned in other areas of the proposal are not included and the proposal looks hurried and incomplete. All right, Jenny, back to you for tip number 10.
All right, we're going to bring it home here. Get someone else to look at your proposal, right? Like you may be too close to it. You may not be able to see everything that a fresh eye will see. Maybe take a step back, get feedback from someone in your network, someone that you work closely with. Make sure that it makes sense to somebody else looking at it so that it's going to have the impact that you want it to have when you submit it. Make sure that the proposal aligns with the format that you've chosen. So Anna and CK have talked a little bit about the different opportunities for submission types, including posters, which that will come a little bit later. 25-minute session, 50-minute session, workshop, why not? But make sure that the learning objectives can actually be accomplished in that time frame. Practice, make sure that it runs through as you expect it to. You can see the peer reviewer feedback here is that it was just too confusing, too much to cover in a 50-minute session. And that harkens back to what Anna said just a moment ago, you know, finding that right mix of time, right? And somebody else might be able to see that and ask you, have you timed that out? Are you going to be able to do all of that in that one 50-minute space? And that'll just make your presentation that much better. You know, our field is pretty awesome. I think everybody wants to help. Having a second set of eyes, using your network, making sure that something you're really excited about makes sense to others will just make your proposal be the best that it can be. That's what we all want to have happen. All right. I think it might be nice to talk a little bit about some myths. And I don't know about you, but over all of the years that I've thought about session proposals, attended conferences, submitted session proposals, I've heard a few myths about proposal submission. So let's take a moment to dispel some of those now. Myth number 1, I have to be a NAFSA member. No, False. You do not have to be a NAFSA member in order to submit a proposal. I mean, sure, we'd love for you to be a NAFSA member. And as a side note, the annual conference is a great time to become a member because you get a discount on registration when you're a NAFSA member, but it's not required. So please don't feel that that's a must in order to submit or to be having somebody with you who is not a NAFSA member, but who also wants to be part of your panel, for example. Totally fine. Myth number 2, I'm new to the field and you have to be an expert with many years in the field. No. 100% not true. The annual conference committee welcomes and values the perspectives of everybody. We want to know from every point of view. We can't just have somebody who's been doing this for 100 years. We need also some new folks. We need mixed people, because otherwise we might be missing some perspectives. If you're a veteran in the field or if you're a newcomer, your perspective is valuable to the conference program and to all of the session and workshop offerings. So please don't let that hold you back. Myth number 3, only proposals with US-based presenters are accepted. Wrong. Please submit if you are not a US-based presenter. The annual conference committee wants to hear more global voices. Please don't feel that way. We would love to have more global voices in the program. You're the ones who can make that happen. So thank you for being here today and for hearing us talk about these myths. I feel better for having gotten some of those out there and cleared up some of those problematic issues. We'll move forward now and talk about some key dates and resources. As you can see on the screen, we've got some deadlines coming up. And I know that there have been a few challenges in the login screen in order to get to the proposal submission. So again, thank you for your patience. We know this has been a little bit of a struggle, but there's some improvements that have been occurring on the back end that haven't fully finalized yet, which is what's causing some of those delays. So please do keep trying. And if you're having problems, please let the staff at NAFSA know, proposals@nafsa.org. But in the meantime, please be checking out the resources that are on this slide, which again will be available to you after the webinar so that you can log in and check out all of the information that we have on the call for proposals page to see who the members of the annual conference committee are if you're interested in knowing, and to learn a little bit more about the international education competencies and the submission policies. I just want to highlight that the deadlines are exactly as you see there. It's 5 p.m. Eastern on August 30th for sessions and workshops, and 5 p.m. Eastern time on December 6th for posters. And I say that because it's very East Coast centric, because that's where the NAFSA staff office is. So that's what it has to be, but you might not be in that time zone. So I just want to make sure that you make a note of that so that you don't run into any specific difficulties. We would like to see I wanted to add one more point. You can see there on the last point on the slide, just as a reminder, all accepted presenters do have to register for the conference. Don't forget, you could be a NAFSA member and that would be great, but if you're not, you can still submit a proposal and we would love to have it. All right, well, let's take a look at some question and answer, some questions that we can answer. Sorry, it's actually a question and answer pod that we have, and we're going to jump right in. We are in fact sharing slides, so if you're not seeing them right now, please know that that is happening. But again, we'll send out an email with the presentation here in just a moment. CK, could I throw a question out to you? Would you mind if I did that?
Sure. I've been busy typing away, responding anyway, but go ahead.
Well, I wanted to see if we could talk about what might happen. Do you know what the provision might be if a presenter changed? Like if we have a presenter that is part of a submission and then they maybe the proposal gets accepted and then one of the presenters is not able to be there and now we need to make a change. Is that going to throw a monkey wrench in the whole shebang?
Well, it should not. Of course, has happened in the past, right? I mean, there are always unforeseeable circumstances when someone cannot make it. So usually at that point, we will work with the chair or the person who the chair of that particular session, and we will try to locate or find a replacement. Because we do still want a diverse perspective, and we do not want a session that is very too one-sided. So we definitely do our best not to cancel any session that has been accepted.
Thank you. We did have a question about whether or not high school students or student-led groups could submit proposals. And that was a great question. I wanted to ask it aloud because I wanted to say thank you, because I think it's awesome to ask that question and for students to be involved in presentations. There's no policy that would exclude them from doing so. So be thinking about how they might present to the audience of international educators who are working with students from K through postdoc into the working world and scholars beyond that. So as long as they've got that point of view and the right learning objectives, please feel free to submit a proposal. Fresh voices and faces, that would be great. We had a question about, and CK, I'm gonna ask this aloud, and I'm happy to try to answer it, but I also am thinking you might have some thoughts on this. There was a question about a possible proposal concerning interventions relating to refugees who are entering a school district who face educational challenges, and trying to figure out if that's more of an international student and scholar services community type connection, or if that might be another broader connection, or maybe is this a shared interest? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to put on my ISSS hat on and say it depends. It actually can be a very interesting proposal, right? Because the reason I say it depends is because there are schools where the international office or the ISSS part works with refugee population, but there are also schools where the structure, the way it's set up, it does not. But either way, I think this is actually a very, very interesting topic, and of course, it is international education related, right? So I would say, yeah, this will be interesting, especially in this time. At this point, I would say if you include refugee or displaced individual from Ukraine, that will be a pretty hot topic.
Excellent. Thanks so much, CK. Anna, I've got one for you. Are you ready? All right. Are posters supposed to be research-based only?
No, we have 11 different poster fairs that have different topics, and I'll drop the link to that in a second, but they're all over the place. We do have one fair that is for research, if that's what you want to do, but we also have ones that are looking at model practices in education abroad or the ISSS knowledge communities. We have one on crisis management in international education. And so those are going to be highlighting programs or activities or processes that you are especially proud of or have worked really hard on and want to share with the international education community. So I have done 2 posters at NAFSA before. One was on research I had done, and one was on a program I ran at a previous institution that I was really proud of and thought others might benefit from learning about. So it can be kind of either or.
And more is I'm all excited just listening to you talk about it, Anna. I'm already like, oh, and could we have one on this or that? And I'm sorry, I'm getting very, poster fairs are amazing, and they're so diverse and they're so versatile. So I love how you describe that. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you think it can be a poster.
That should be the tagline.
That is the tagline. Yep.
Excellent. All right. There was a question about whether or not parent ambassadors could be panelists, and I'm not 100% sure if I know for certain what a parent ambassador is, if that's more like a host parent or somebody involved with programs on a specific campus, but there's no reason that someone that anyone couldn't be a panelist if they've got something that they could add to a session, and being part of that connection to the audience and something that the session that you're thinking of would benefit from having their viewpoint there, please. There's no limitation on any particular individual being a panelist as far as being able to submit a proposal. I hope that makes sense. If your question was something different that I didn't specifically answer, please put another question in and we'll make sure that we get you taken care of. Oh, thank you. Parents involved in community schools. You were already right there. Thank you. So yes, that would be, they would totally be able to be a presenter. Oh, so if you have students or scholars who wanted to join a session as speakers and maybe have them share their experience as part of the session, what might be required of them besides registering for the session? And is there a student discount? And I would love to see if anybody else wants to answer that, but I'm happy to do so if not.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, well, I just felt like my mouth just keeps talking and I didn't want you to I didn't want you to not have a chance to hear other voices. But yes, there are registration discounts for students as part of the registration process. There are also volunteer opportunities. You can volunteer at NAFSA at the annual conference and get some additional discounts off your conference registration. And there's going to be information about that on the NAFSA website. So I hope that will be of use. And certainly if you have students or scholars who can speak to the experience that you are presenting about, that you want to propose, please be sure to include them in the proposal submission that you make.
And Jenny, I'm just going to make one addition. I actually responded to one, I typed out the response to a question, but I think I'm going to share that question with everybody. The question was, is there a limit to number of proposal an individual can submit? The answer is no, there is no limit. You can submit multiple sessions, you can submit sessions and workshop and posters. You basically, there's really no limit.
CK, what are your thoughts? You sort of touched on this during your presentation, but in terms of preference given to proposals with more than one presenter and across institutions or departments, so diversity within the speakers that are being listed in the proposal, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that the committee is going to be giving preference to?
Yes, because if you see one of the part of the evaluation or the review, one part of the rubric, it's on diversity, right? In terms of it's not just necessarily institution type, but where the perspective is coming from and all the different level, for example, advanced versus entry level, multiple perspective of a topic from, different countries, so on and so forth. So that is going to be part of the evaluation rubric.
Excellent. And I think coming back to some of what we talked about earlier, thinking about that connection with the audience and the learning objectives and the abstract all together, CK said earlier, certainly one person can do some sessions on their own if they have the right learning objectives and abstract and right connection to the conference theme and to the audience engagement. But yeah, absolutely, thinking about getting all of the folks that who can speak to a topic and really make that more meaningful for the people. What are you going to take away from that session if you're an audience member, and are you going to get more out of it if somebody's coming at it from a slightly different perspective? So that's great. Good. Are there other questions that we are answering some of them in the Q&A itself, but if there are other questions that you'd like to raise with us, we're very happy to have them. I'd just like to reiterate how excited we are about going to New Orleans and seeing you all there, and so grateful that you joined us today. So thank you for being here, and please keep your questions coming. We're happy to answer them. Anna, can you spend a little time talking about how exactly does a poster session work and whether or not you just stand there and explain it for, multitude of hours or just for a specific period of time? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So the posters will be hung up in the expo hall for the duration of the conference. So attendees can go and visit anytime they fancy while they're in the expo hall. But there will be certain times where we ask that poster presenters be present so that people can come and talk with them about their poster proposals. And so that would be based on the poster fair that you submit for. And we would give you those certain times early enough that you can plan your conference schedule around that time.
Lovely, thank you. Someone asked if when will notifications about the status of a session proposal, whether or not it's accepted or rejected, when will those go out? That will be in November or thereabouts. It'll be a little bit later in the year for sessions and workshops, and then for posters, final decisions and notifications will go out in the start of the 2024. How did I forget? This is the 2024 conference. Apparently, I don't know how calendars work. Excellent. CK, would you mind reiterating the deadlines that we have for our session and workshop and poster submissions?
Yes, it's August 30th, not 31st. It's August 30th, 5 p.m. Eastern, US Eastern Standard Time. So I've got a number of inquiries, and because August has 31 days and people are thinking it's 31st, but no, it's the 30th, 30.
5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time will be the deadline. I'm just gonna always remember that. That's gonna be how I'm gonna keep on keeping on. Excellent. And I would just like to say a thank you to those of you who are posting information in the chat, including Sarah Thurston, and I've seen Anna in there too. So thank you all so much for doing that. Other questions, or are there any other tips or thoughts that Anna or you and CK might have as we wrap things up?
Just a reminder, don't wait until the last minute.
That's spot on. And yes, please, I hope you're excited and enthusiastic and you're feeling engaged and ready to submit a proposal. We can't wait to read what you're going to write and that we kind of hope that we'll see you all in New Orleans one way or the other. Please say hello as you pass us in the hallway.
There was just one last question that I think it's in the Q&A. It says, can you share a sample proposal? In general, we don't have sample proposal to share. I would say, check with your KC, your knowledge community. They may be able to help you, with some examples, of proposal people have, submitted. The reason is because these are individual intellectual property too, right? We cannot just take someone's proposal and kind of share it without permission. So I would say work with your knowledge community.
Excellent. Yeah, and if you're trying to think about how maybe you want to connect with some folks and you're not quite sure how to find somebody, look within Network NAFSA, and some of the knowledge communities are putting people together, and otherwise you could just post a message and say, hey, I'm interested in connecting on anybody who might want to talk about this topic that I want to present on at the annual conference. And that way people know you're interested. And you could also reach out to your knowledge community representative and ask them for some tips. They will tell you whether or not there's any kind of match type program. Some of the knowledge communities are doing that, so that may be worth exploring as well. But simply posting out to the listserv and saying, I've got this really great idea that I'm very excited about. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Anybody interested in presenting on this with me? And you might get some takers and meet some new friends. Now, of course, you want it to be somebody that can present well and can, is knowledgeable and able to fit in. So maybe meet up a little bit and have some chats to see if they fit with what you're trying to accomplish with your session idea. And similar, I see a similar question about a sample proposal templates is something that we are there isn't so much one there, but when you're able to log in after the webinar ends and you're able to log in and see the layout of the session submissions, I think you'll find it streamlined and very easy to access. Oh, CK, somebody's asking, they work at an art and design institution. Would a presentation related to those niche disciplines or schools be of interest to people?
Of course, there's lots of interest. I would say, yeah. I mean, I would strongly encourage, to submit a proposal. Now, of course, again, it is going to come down to, the actual topic that you're going to cover, right? Because you cannot be talking about, the entire arts and design, field. So it's going to come down to, what area, how you're going to connect to the conference theme, and of course, all the other sub themes that we have, and how related it is to international education.
Great.
But the short answer is yes.
Excellent. Thinking about virtual exchanges and COIL, someone who's interested in knowing what knowledge community that best aligns with. And I think that will sort of depend on what you want that to focus on, right? I could see a couple of different options. So it will depend on what aspects of that you would like to try to cover, but you've got a good couple of knowledge communities that you could look at. I could think of maybe enrollment management, international enrollment management, and education abroad potentially, but it also, oh, Anna, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it could be shared interest. Just go for that one.
I love that. Good answer. So, hey, CK, what if
Yes.
somebody wants to have a presenter join remotely and other presenters are going to be in person?
Yeah, tricky, because I can tell you from personal experience, because I have tried doing this. We normally don't encourage it at all. It's because you can never tell about technology. There are going to be times where you have everything lined up and it's you think it's going to work perfectly, and then on the actual day or that time, because there's no guarantee. So I personally will say the quick answer to that is no, because it's just too risky. It's just really absolutely too risky to have someone join in remotely.
Excellent. Well, we are just about a minute away, so let us take just a moment to once again say thank you so much for joining us today, for all of your thoughtful questions, and for the enthusiasm that you're bringing to getting your proposals submitted by August 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern and posters on December 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern. We look forward to reading your proposals. We look forward to seeing you in New Orleans. CK, Anna, anything else you want to say as we end?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Excellent. All right, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week.